I'm sure you can play. Is that it?
Okay, now if I raise my amount, I should go down. I think everybody was not
Well, man, Lori.
I think I was around last week. Not over here, but not the other day.
Thank you.
Right, it's just more local.
You know, make it stop going on Monday. Follow up after he was sitting
Come on, really?
there.
Can you just put that over there and look that way? And I'll sit.
No, this is your skinny side.
Sit on this side?
Yeah, this is the skinny side.
Right before Aaron sits down.
You know,
You're over there. You're already sitting. Only on myself.
oh, sorry.
Good afternoon. Oh.
Thank you.
Where were you this morning?
But the table for you. I know. I was pretty.
Other people are doing that now.
Oh,
I don't have to go anymore.
I feel like these are always the hot ones.
I don't like being direct on that camera.
I can
Oh,
zoom.
yeah, sure. I think it's
That's really
Aaron, this is the #1 page people go to now.
For what?
The budget meeting.
Oh. That's not a good thing.
No.
Okay. Everybody settled in? Okay. Call the meeting to order at this time. We'll do introductions. We've got a lot of new faces in the room, so we'll start. We've got a sign-in sheet going around, so be sure to sign the sign-up sheet. And I'll start off by saying I'm Jim Chapman, Chair of the committee and member of the board. And we'll go this way.
Richard Egan, County Administrative Officer.
Regina Schaff, Administration.
Aaron Albaugh, Board of Supervisors.
Stacy Montgomery, DA.
Craig Hemphill, Agricultural Department, like teenagers.
Maurice Anderson, Planning and Building Services.
Diana Wemple, Auditor. Julie Morgan, Admin.
Start right here.
Nancy Cardenas, Treasurer Tax Collector. Christina Devine, Treasurer Tax Collector.
Sam Shapiro, Chairman of the Stones Bed Dirt Service District.
Reggie Daddy, that'll get better. Kathy Strudel, Lisa.
Michelle Latimer, District Attorney's Office.
Okay, before we go past there, let's get the ones in the hallway.
Eric Ewing, Lassen County OES.
Kevin Jones, Lassen County Sheriff.
Pete Grouden, Sheriff.
Bob Burns, County Council.
All right.
Jim Pecor, Honey Lake TV.
And Douglas, Honey Lake TV.
Sean A. Rugged, Clearfield.
Sean Warren, Chief, Janesville Fire.
Jim River, Susan River Fire.
Bruce Ski, Chief Metal. Eli Norwood, Planning and Building Services.
Yvonne Smith, Health and Social Services. Jessica Valdez, Probation. Jen Brennan, Probation.
Okay, and we have on the camera back here, Spencer. So with
From
that,
Can We Help? Thank you.
So with that, we'll start, I guess we'll do public comment first. Do we have any general public comment from anyone who would like to address the committee? If not, we'll move on to approve the minutes of the July 19th meeting.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any further comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion unanimous. So we'll take up budget, and Mr. Egan, I guess we'll start with you.
Sure. As far as the progress of the budget, we're continuing to narrow the gap. We still have a gap to bridge for the general fund, public safety, and to a lesser extent probation. Julie's right now developing some options. Is this the one that I already have? Probably. Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, Julie's continuing to come up with some options that are not fully developed yet to bridge the final gap in general fund and public safety. Suffice it to say, we're going to have to find some reductions in expenditures, probably around the $1 million range for the general fund, and probably a little more than that in the public safety. Probably going to look at doing that through increasing the vacancy factor that we've already calculated in there, and some other expenditure reductions that Julie may not be ready to go into now, but next meeting we plan to have those options to review with some recommendations to bridge the final gap and then take it to the board. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that today because we have some other items that are probably going to take a little while, FireNet, Lassen, and Honey Lake TV. So Julie, did you have anything else to add to that?
Big close.
If you could let us know the status of incorporating the reclassifications into the document.
That's been challenging, so departments have gotten me most of them. I just need to get in the new numbers and then see how that impacts it, and then we'll work from there. So I know a couple departments are still trying to work on it, trying to figure out.
Could we out the departments that are yet to provide those? You have a list of them?
We're one of them. We have a small issue, but we don't
Okay.
need to take it up today.
The sheriff was the biggest one.
I got an email of theirs.
Okay.
So I just, of the summary sheet's not the backup, but that's okay. I
And
mean,
then
I just need to put that
health
in.
and social services.
Right, those are good. Did you send them to me? Because I don't think.
No, but they'll be sent out this morning, so I will.
Okay. And then
Looking at utilizing some reserve funds in order to bridge the gap, that save that topic of discussion for the next meeting. I think that'll be one component of the recommendation.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Larry?
I do not this time.
Okay, do we have any questions from around the room on the report Mr. Egan just presented? Not, then we'll move on to the items next. Discussion of pending items is budgetary impact.
Sorry, one question. So Richard, on the, when do you think we might see what you guys are proposing in the way of cuts?
Prior to the next budget meeting, I'd like, a couple, maybe 4 or 5 days before that, I'd like to circulate it so we can have a better discussion. I don't want to promise a date because we'll be working out to the last minute.
I understand. I was just hoping it would be prior to the next meeting. So.
Yeah. That's the plan, right, Julie?
When you circulate, propose who you're going to circulate.
I don't mind circulating the draft recommended budget in an electronic format, but it's pretty, this is what it is, so I'd rather not have too many drafts out there just because it gets confusing, so.
we post it on the intranet. Sometimes we'll say draft recommended budget and then put it on the intranet so departments can refer there, and then as it changes, we can just
I
put
was
it
wondering
in.
if Aaron and I get a copy.
Yeah, if that works for everybody, we'll do that.
Can you put a date? It's easier to reference all these
Yeah, and I think we've
iterations
got
with a date.
Although it's in really small print, I think we've got
Right
it.
here.
It has the date and time.
That's another document.
No, it's there. Well, it prints out.
Okay,
Okay, so FireNet Lassen?
yeah, let's start with FireNet Lassen, I guess is the
Yeah.
first one.
I'll lead off. I think Eric might have some comments here. In the past, the county has budgeted support for the local districts to pay, local fire districts to pay their fees to the FireNet Lassen. FireNet Lassen is
Some of the districts.
the volunteer districts. So the volunteer districts are members of a joint powers authority called FireNet Lassen. So that group together provides dispatch services for all those agencies. Sometime in the past, the board made a commitment to backfilling some of those costs to the volunteer districts, and that's been a number of years. Those costs have been relatively stable with slight increases. This last year, because they hadn't had increases, the budget that the FireNet Lassen adopted is a significant increase over past years. And so the question arises, does the county want to continue to increase their support of those departments to fill that gap? It's in terms of a total dollar amount, it's not huge in terms of the county budget, but there's another issue in play here that has come to our attention. I don't have a strong opinion on it, although I kind of defer to the professionals in the agencies. The issue that they have identified is that this Joint Powers Authority, whose membership consists of all these departments, has suffered from a lack of involvement of these departments that are its members. And the thought is that maybe is due to the fact that they don't really have any skin in the game if the county's backfilling all of their costs to it, and so they're not participating in the governance of that Joint Powers Authority. And so the idea has come forward that now that we have this this large increase in fees, maybe passing some or all of that increase back to the agencies who are responsible for it would bring them back into the governance of that Joint Powers Authority. So that's the essence of the issue. It looks like there's quite a few people in the audience that would like to comment on it.
Yeah, and I think also too, it's been, like I said, from the get-go, the county has picked up, the board has picked up, and I think back when that was happening, the districts were going through, because of the state budget and just, the local government finances were really.
I will say, and I think this is really not the topic of the discussion, but the importance of this consortium or this JPA and how this county is organized for emergency services is a model. They were way ahead of their times in the age when they built it, and it's been very strong and very robust all the way through many tight financial times. So I don't see this as being anything that's going to undermine what we've got in place. It's just something we have to talk our way through, keep moving forward. But what we have right now in our little tiny county is a platinum plan, in my opinion. Listening to other counties and the issues they go through with local districts, whether it's municipal or county, we don't have their problems. And it's all a testament to the JPA, and then the county recognizing that 7 years ago we're trying to help further it along. The 10% cost share, I don't see it being much different than where they were with their, actually their 10% is going to be less than what they were paying 8 years ago when we got into this pickle to begin with. So, I mean, I can't speak for their individual boards on this, but in my opinion, I think this is a very good discussion, and I think it's going to keep moving forward, obviously.
Eric, what's driving the cost up? I mean, it's going from 2014 to now up by a third.
Healthcare benefits.
And Eric and I discussed this quite a bit. I think, for the service that's being provided, so FireNet Lassen contracts with CAL FIRE to provide the dispatch service, I think everybody agrees it's a pretty incredible value when you break it all down. And everybody's only paying a small, their share of it, as opposed to having to have their own dispatch service.
When you're looking at it costs probably in the neighborhood of between about 90 to 100,000 per year for 24/7 coverage to answer the phone for these districts in the county. The only one we don't have represented right now is Madeline, is not part of that yet, but we're in discussions to try and get them involved in that. But aside from that, everybody else is party to it and reach those benefits. So it's a very small fee to get that service. And that service in the 911 arena goes beyond just that one person that this JPA purchases or contracts with. It's the whole building, the whole concept of the whole service. There's unrealized benefits and cost sharing that goes on behind the scenes that is not on paper anywhere. You start peeling that apart, and then it becomes a lot more expensive quickly. He's not here, but the budget issues he deals with in his dispatch center are tenfold what we have to deal with in this.
For over
fortunate that the SIPC Center is here and it has the broad-based federal and state agencies that participate in it, and so they kind of we had to create that on our own, independent of anything like that. These kind of costs would be like, would be 10 times that to operate. I know the city in its discussions with the county in terms of sharing and participating with the sheriff's dispatch system, I mean, the budgets that are operating there are much greater than what we're seeing. So we're getting a tremendous value for this by being able to tag on with this overall system. I guess the question really comes down is how do we distribute the costs back out? And I think at this time the proposal that was coming in, particularly with the feedback that we aren't seeing the small districts participating in the JPA in terms of the day-to-day governance and what is happening there, which was part of what was envisioned when it was set up back in the 80s. It's kind of a concern, and then the idea that that's exactly why you're here. Anytime you
That's
have,
a good assign.
anytime you have the money out of the general fund,
Pretty quick, huh? So apparently there's not enough fees being collected to cover the cost of the operation for the County Service Area 1. Which is under the control of the Board of Supervisors. Honey Lake TV is simply a contractor to provide the service for the county. And therefore, we provided the funding request to the county administration, and this is what we came up with. We've reduced our budget significantly from the prior, so we're willing to help them with it. We'd even help support them if we get them bonded, because they will be.
What's amazing, and I know those who have and I've had feedback on it, is the quality of the signal that you guys are able to deliver, especially with the digital signals that come out of the department. But is to make sure that like in the case of the high desert, like when I became aware of that back in February, maybe it was that you brought it to my attention, and so the guy from High Desert calls the county office. And he calls the office he thinks he's supposed to be talking to. I think it was the assessor's office. And the person who answers the phone wasn't Carol. It was maybe one of the new people who hasn't been exposed to it, has very little understanding. It's not her fault that she doesn't have the answer. But the answer is that she's the one that's supposed to have the answer to answer the question. So this guy basically bounced around apparently a year ago trying to find somebody who understood the program. And the problem is the people in charge, nobody was in charge. And he couldn't get an answer. So eventually they dropped it out of their funding, and then finally when these guys stumbled in and say a year later, why is our revenue down? Why is there only half the money coming in from the prison? They were the ones that tracked the cookie crumbs back to the people in High Desert administration to find out that when they called the courthouse, they couldn't find anybody in the courthouse that knew anything about it.
Well, I just know from the flyers you sent out, we have a lot of people call and want to add it to their tax bill.
Sure.
For the flyers the assessor sends out?
No,
From Honey Lake TV sends out that has our phone number on them, which is fine. However, the auditor's office only adds special assessments to the tax roll once a year. That's in August.
But
so if the people want to add it in December, you're losing out on that revenue because it will not be added.
I think we're the big part of the breakdown. Too bad we don't have anybody from the assessor's office here, but I think it would be worthwhile to pursue. But when it was actually set up, the program was set up as everybody in their tax roll received the notice that this assessment is being put on the tax roll. And if you aren't, I mean, there are people who legitimately don't watch TV, and that's acceptable. There are people who were subscribers in cable, so because they're a cable subscriber, obviously they don't have a need for antenna, so that was a reason for an exemption. If they were a subscriber back then, we didn't have a lot of Dish and Direct, but if you had another purveyor that could provide that to you, you could use that. But if you didn't fall in one of those exemptions, okay, then the $25 stayed on the bill and it went into the fund. Well, then the house, the property will sell and resell. So each time that sale goes through, that exemption that was on that parcel for those original people ceases to exist. The new people should be having to either make that declaration or they have the $25. Now,
I believe, I wish the assessor's office was here, but I believe when there's a change of ownership, there's back on. If they have an exemption, the fee should go automatically back on.
Until an exemption is filed for the new owner.
Should be the
default, and I don't think the default has been set to do that. And I think what's happened over the years is the assessor's office, if the exemption is there, it just stayed there regardless of who the subsequent owners were. And as a result, your revenue stream was down because at one time, I think the revenue stream was up closer to about $150,000. I mean, I'm
Well,
talking about a long time ago.
I'm happy to meet with the assessor and clarify that process to find out
I'd be
what's...
happy to join if you'd like. I mean,
Well-
what's going on,
but
but
I
I don't
did
think...
preliminary research ourselves, and we came across the assessor has 1,260 exemptions listed, but we hand counted only 388 on file. So there's a little disconnect there as well. So I mean, we'd be happy to help in any way we can. You know.
And Richard, I would like to be involved in that because
I think you
people
should
call
be,
our office
yeah.
all of the time off their tax bill.
And you should be, because you're in a position to direct the people that are calling to the right person to talk to. But it's important that when you direct them to that, whoever that person is, that person is the most knowledgeable about the program, because they can't give an answer if they don't know themselves. So it doesn't help you to refer it across the hall when the person across the hall may not have the answer to the question the person has.
But in terms of some sort of interim assessment during the year, other than the regular tax time, I don't think that would be terribly efficient.
No.
Because the cost of sending out a bill and collecting a $25 payment.
No, it has to be during the regular cycle. And right now, I think the tax roll for this next tax cycle is basically ended as of like last Friday, isn't it? When's your deadline?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? See, but it's too late to do something for tomorrow.
I mean, we will actually be inputting that all special districts, they have to have their assessments.
I mean, it's going to take a good year if you're going to be rejuvenating the process to, provide the public information and get it out there. You just can't arbitrarily just start putting stuff on there. But I think you do need to investigate the status of the ordinance and the fact that the exemption is to get off. It's automatically applied unless you have a valid exemption in place.
But I think the overriding issue is, though, that the budget continues to increase, but the fee stays the same, and there fewer or the same users. And
The hard costs
so-
are actually, they pretty much stay the same. The only differences are cost of insurance or cost of utilities and things like that. And the improvements that we're looking at doing, expanding service throughout the county service area, that's the expense that we need to do to improve those services so everybody is capable of receiving the service.
Yeah, but those particular improvements, though, can't necessarily be driven by the $25 assessment. That we need to look at other funding sources to be able to do that. So to have the expectation that we're going to do that and then pass that back to the few folks who haven't filed an exemption, I don't think is a valid way to go.
Right. I think that based on what we've done, like I said, we did a preliminary study, and we think that there are funds sufficient to cover these improvements, not just...
Well, and over, above.
And, yeah, exactly. And however, but I think that we need to get together and revisit the ordinance itself and the
Yeah, I think
amendments.
Let's do that. I think Dan and I can work
Yeah.
together to
But it should be an automatic $25 assessment on everybody unless they want to opt out. Then they contact and bother you and bother the assessor's office to file for the exemption. That's how that ordinance is written.
It is written that way.
We shouldn't be questioning it. It should automatically be going on those assessors right now.
So if there's 1,200.
I want to understand that, and I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but
You have a
are you
copy of it, Don?
are you suggesting that each year
Yeah.
Absolutely.
everyone file an exemption to be?
That's the way the ordinance is written, yes.
Because I can see that being fairly cumbersome.
Well, no, I'm saying is once an exemption is filed and it's the same ownership, okay, they don't have to file the same exemption year after year.
That's how I think they're operating, but that's not what...
No,
it is.
That's not what the ordinance says.
that's not how it's operating with. What I think that you're going to find out is that once a homeowner in a particular, a property owner in a particular parcel, once they file the exemption, it's kind of like your homeowner's exemption. Once I filed it and I stay in that home for the next 35 years, that homeowner's exemption renews automatically year to year to year. And that was what the Honey Lake TV
But
people...
Dan's saying that's not what the ordinance is.
But,
You want to take a look at, here's the code itself,
yeah,
if you want to take a look.
but I believe though what's happened is that when there's a change of ownership, that exemption has been following the property, whether it's been a renewed exemption by a new owner or not. And that's where a lot of parcels fell out. And that's where you need to have the default of everybody's on there unless you have a valid exemption on file.
I don't think a lot of people know that it's now digital TV, excellent digital TV.
Well, we spent quite a few
No.
dollars sending out the flyers
And
to
I
notice
guess,
throughout the
Dan,
county.
that's what I would tell you, is that if you send out the flyers, the time to send out the flyers to pick up your most people, even the people with exemptions,
Is in
would
the
be in the
spring.
spring.
Yeah.
Because you send them out in the fall, and then by the time they get around to telling the assessor, if they're not added on for that August roll, then you've missed them again for the year.
Right.
And I guess that's where my comment to you is when you send out your flyers.
Right. I don't see where it speaks to the annual assessment. You're looking at, oh, you got the county code.
It's an annual thing, but the exemption is like, it's treated like a homeowner's exemption would be treated. Once it's filed by a property owner, as long as that property owner maintains the ownership, the exemption renews itself unless the owner comes in and says, I no longer use cable and I no longer use this and I want to have.
Many people
So-
don't want to do that now
Yeah. I
because
did
the
it.
service is so.
I did.
Yeah, we're finding a lot of people are actually opting out of their regular cable or dish or
No, I
satellite
three,
service. Things like
three,
that.
years,
So they're keeping-
3 years ago,
That's
3
a
years
question
ago, I
that we
gave
should
up
also
cable.
answer with county council, I think, because I'm not convinced that it's,
Yeah,
that it's
it
ever.
needs to be evaluated. But no, 3 years ago, I did exactly that. I gave up cable, walked away because I was totally dissatisfied with the service. And one of the things I did, I installed the antenna, and I went to the assessor's office, and I withdrew the exemption I have, and I had the $25 added back onto my tax bill because I think it's a good service. It's a good investment.
Good. And so those are two things that we can do. Could we spend a little bit of time just talking about the budget, because you know, the devil's always in the details. And
Certainly.
If you look at a gross basis, you have the budget request is down over last year's final budget.
Right.
But last year's final budget included $18,000 in capital improvements, and there's no capital improvements in this budget.
Correct.
So the actual operating budget is higher this year than it was last year, not lower.
Yeah, we added additional dollars in there to deal with equipment maintenance because we knew that we weren't going to have capital, especially wear and tear on the truck.
Does the digital technology, in itself demand more electricity use because of the equipment that you're running to?
Not the technology itself, Jim, it's mostly the cooling of the stuff. Because, we've all been in a room full of computers that doesn't have any fans or whatever. It's the cooling of it. And if you don't keep it cool, the lifespan just goes,
So that will affect,
1/3.
that will affect your utility costs versus what you did in the past in the old analog days.
Absolutely.
Okay. I knew there was a reason like that, because I remember you sharing that or talked about that in your board presentation a year or two ago.
And we've been trying to improve our signal over in Lake Forest. There are still parts of Lake Forest Estates that don't receive the signal. And we're trying to increase that. And that's part of the budget too, is we were hoping to, just work more on what we do to make it better.
Okay, fund balance? Is it truly zero?
No. I just looked at the fund balance and it was from a month ago, so I asked Diana if she had posted anything. She didn't think so. It was around 14,000. So I think for the current year, with this current budget, the way it stands, they won't need a general fund contribution.
Even if they were to expend this entire budget? Okay, well, that's good information.
But we're on borrowed time though, because
As you well know, just take time and money. And, I want to end this by saying that Lassen County, Service Area 1, Susanville, Lassen County, this area, we're about this far away from our own television channel. I mean, KABC, Susanville. I mean, we're this close. I see it every day because I work in it. I get really excited over it. So,
on our web page, the county web page, do we do any information sharing with a lot of the stuff that these guys have been? I think it would be it would be worthwhile for us, particularly since it is a county service area, we have a contract, is a lot of the key information. I mean, you obviously have your own web page and we can direct
Well, we
to
can
that.
link that,
Yeah,
for sure, which is a lot easier than creating
But I think having a portal on our webpage, though, with some basic information in terms of the administration of, let's say, the exemption process and how the thing is paid for through the tax bill and so forth, once you guys review the ordinance and figure out what is actually the process, I think having that information on the county webpage would be really helpful to try to promote better understanding in the community as to what the opportunities and options are. It'd make their lives easier, but it also make the contractor's life a lot
Well,
easier.
it's not that it makes my life easier, I just hate to see you guys miss out on the revenues.
Yeah.
And I hate that it only can be added on in August, and so I just wanted to bring that up.
I think it can be, just to clarify, I think it can be added on at any time during the year. It doesn't take effect until next year.
I went in and
Once the
signed up in November.
You can go into the assessor's office and do the paperwork at any time.
Yeah, that's what
But if they will cancel at any time during the year, but they will only add it on
Right.
to the new
I
roll in
went and
August.
signed up in November, and it showed up the following year's bill.
Yeah, but like we talked, an interim billing just isn't efficient.
Yeah.
Interim billing isn't efficient, but we had a lot of people, they had a lot of response last year to their flyers. And we had people just want to come in and give us the $25 because they had been using it and they felt it was unfair, they had to wait until August. So being the treasurer and the tax collector, it breaks my heart to turn away money.
Take it.
I can't take it, it's not on the tax bill, like you said. So something would have to be in place by the board that if they send this out and people want to come in and pay them and say, I've been using this service and I would like to pay my $25, that I have something that I can collect on.
Well,
Nothing
nothing precludes them from sending a check for $25 to Honey Lake TV.
Or donating the money to the county.
Well, okay, so that, but yes, Honey Lake Valley, or Honey Lake TV, Honey Lake TV doesn't have a way to deposit their money into the county because they're not necessarily.
Yeah, but when let's think about the mechanics here. When somebody pays the $25, they're paying that to the county service area number one, not to Honey Lake TV. Two separate entities. And so that money goes into the CSA1 fund, not irrespective of what our contract is with them.
I think that their ad campaign was very good last year. I think what it missed was an envelope saying, please put your $25 in. Because we would have collected a ton of $25 checks. And had we have known that we could have done that, we would have collected a lot of $25 not on the tax bill.
What Richard's saying, you take that $25 and not put it in the tax roll fund, but you put it in CSA1's account. This
Well,
$14,000.
before the procedure is go over to the auditor's office, they'll sign you up and it'll show on your tax bill next year. There has never been any.
Well, that should occur too, but if they're talking about paying for the current year, that's a different story.
Right, but there has nothing ever been set up.
I think that ordinance addresses people making contributions even during the year. There's nothing that precludes people from.
But I mean, that's what I think, if you guys do that again, there should be an envelope, and you would have gotten a lot of $25 checks, because a lot of people were going, oh, I do use that.
You see, the expense.
Well, as it was, it
doing
cost us
that
$7,000 to
is
send
also
these out, so
budget
adding an envelope would have been even, exponentially higher, so.
Or even if you said, even if we know we can do that now, you could say, please go into the county assessor's office with your $25 payment for current year, and the next year will be added on. I still believe you would have collected a lot of money, because
Well,
we had
that's
a
what
lot
we
of
did.
calls and interest this
That's
last
what they
year.
did, but it sounds like they didn't collect the $25.
That's
They,
right.
Yeah, they added people on maybe, but they didn't collect the $25.
Right. So we need to speak to clarify that.
Just as a quick aside, because I have this little marketing brain that never shuts down, I would suggest you go to, I mean, we have a ton of different special districts. Find out when their board meeting is, call them, go in, and some of the districts have a lot of people come into their meetings, others don't, but go in, and if it's an area you service, go in and pitch them.
Maintenance, we solved the problem there.
Right.
Well,
It's a hell of a lot cheaper than mailing.
in defense of Honey Lake Power, that's a good suggestion, but that's not their role. They're a service provider to the CSA. But I think we have a good.
We do like bringing our own bill.
Right. Well, that's.
We have a Facebook page, we have a website, and I'll tell you, every single person that pushes we have a website with an email thing, you can ask a question, every single person gets an answer.
Yeah.
Period. So, and I have heard a lot of people say, hey, thanks for, even telling me that this wasn't even possible. At least you got back to me. So.
Well, I think we have it settled for this year. I think Dan and I have some work to do, both with the assessor's office and county council, and then I think as another follow-up, we probably need to at least visit the amount of the fee that's established in the ordinance. It's been $25 for
Since 1980.
Right. Well,
35
according
years,
to the
and costs have gone up.
According to the code, it can be adjusted as needed to cover the fees. annually. So
Yeah.
the board could adjust
The board
it if
has,
they needed
the
to.
board has the flexibility to
Right.
set it at 30, set it at 25.
They could reduce it, they could
35.
increase it, you
And
know, but
I think that's probably not a bad idea to explore. There, several years ago, we suspended the fee, if
Right.
you all
For a
recall,
whole year.
for a year because there was too much money.
right.
Yeah.